Good evening, folks. And tonight, we're going to talk about a kind of reverse psychology of World War I, of how Hitler could not have come to power, of what would have happened if Hitler didn't come to power. Well, first off, he was actually wounded, shot, at the Battle of Somme. A battle that was literally, sadly, this was the first Battle of Somme, fought in 1916 during World War I. A battle that literally was like a farce for both sides. Neither side could really come to a conclusive battle. This battle was literally supposed to help blow open for the side of the Allies. It was literally supposed to blow it open and force the Germans to draw some divisions away from the French and force the more German divisions over to fight against the British. But unfortunately, British weren't as well thought of and were very more dumbfounded and weren't as well ready or prepared. But they did make some significant victories over there, though, but at a hefty price. I mean, it was just as bloody as the Battle of Verdun, which was a big victory for the French, which lasted 302 days. The 6th Reserve Division, which is what Hitler was in, and the 18th Reserve Bavarian Regiment is what he served under. He was a Lance Corporal Adolf Hitler at the time. He was charging. He was shot in the leg in retreat. The whole entire regiment, pretty much his entire regiment was in retreat. 2 other guys right beside him both shot. He was wounded in retreat. The person responsible for shooting the 2 guys right next to him, British Private Henry Tandy, shot both the guys right next to him. He saw the guy, he was wounded, didn't think anything of it, but let him go. Henry Tandy, later I can't remember if he became a sergeant later on in life. Later on he said, "Why didn't I shoot? If I would have known he would have raised to power and started this mess, I would have shot the guy." Now the question is, if he would have shot and killed Hitler, but later on in the war, in 1917, Hitler would be gassed and would be forced to resign from the war. And he'd be later hospitalized due to being gassed from the war and wouldn't see action at all. Now, as of this incident where he was wounded and recovered from his wounds, Henry Tandy, who also shot Hitler, but didn't hit him where he killed the other 2. He actually wounded him. But the thing about Hitler here is, what would have happened if Private Henry Tandy actually killed Hitler? Who would we be fighting in World War II instead of Germany? Well, let's see here. Considering we had very cold relations with Stalin, and the deal we made was we would have to invade France. And that we would do an invasion of France, and he would do a full hard invasion, that we would split Germany in half, was his deal. That was the promise that he made. We would cut it in half. And sure enough, that's what happened. And Stalin held up to his word. We would hold it. But sure enough, he was... Considering that Franklin Delano Roosevelt was not a fan of communists. Did not like communists. And that's what he was, a communist. What he did was, it was like making a deal with the devil to him. He made a deal with him, shook hands with him, and did his part while Stalin did his part. Two different entities really much will doing their own thing, but going about their own way, doing their own battles. So, what goes on? Well, the two bygones were two bygones. They did their own battles and kept on battling the Germans on both sides, in the Eastern Front and the Western Front. Now, so what changed? Now, once the French pretty much made their way, it could have easily been, since Hitler is dead, we go on about the story, Hitler's dead, Stalin. We would most likely be facing Stalin, since that is the case. Stalin is the person we would be most likely battling, is Stalin. We would go over there, invade Russia, pretty much drive the Soviets out of there. Now who knows, I don't know if we'd be battling Japan, because they didn't really shake hands when they made the triple alliance between Italy, Germany, and Japan. Italy never really had an alliance with the Soviet Union. They never really did shake hands with the Soviet Union. Those two mainly sided with each other. Then Japan was already having a war with China itself, so it was technically like a completely different war going on over there. The Sanyo Japanese War, I think is what it was called, where the Japanese and Chinese were battling. It was going on prior to World War I. Excuse me. Ugh. My brain's catching up to me. Now, it was going on since 1937. And World War II, when Germany invaded Poland, didn't happen until September 1st, 1939, which is when World War II first began, which set off the entire war. But yet, Poland was also invaded by the Soviet Union. Until they were allies, Soviet Union and Germany were allies the whole time, until Germany was invaded by the Soviet Union. Until Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Then after that, it all ended one way or another. Neither side could really come to a conclusive end. The Germans were forced back to where they were from the west, from the east side, and the Americans, the French, the Free French forces, I should say, and the British forced them out right back to where they pretty much were. Pretty much as easy as I can say. Where they have freedom and everything you can do over here on the west, and on the east side is very authoritarian, aka also known as communist type of feel. Pretty much that's what it was. But, as they all said, I mean, Poland, the idea was to let Poland and all the other countries there, to let them go. But Stalin never allowed that to happen. But the thing about that, we most likely would have ran right through Russia. When World War II would have happened, we most likely would have had a war with Russia. Most likely. If World War II broke out and Hitler was dead. We would have had a war with Stalin. He probably would have shook hands with Japan. Most likely. Not sure if Japan would have bombed us. But Hell, they already started enough wars with us already. Hell, we would have invaded them. We go all the way through the Soviet Union, aka Russia. The Cold War never happens. We never have a Cold War after that. A lot to think about on this one. The Korean War, I'm not sure if the Korean War ever would have happened, because they wouldn't be getting their supplies from the Soviets, aka the Russians. Because that's literally how the Vietnam War also was served out as well. They didn't get their supplies from the Soviets either. I mean, literally almost every country that was communist got their supplies from the Soviets. The North Vietnamese, the Viet Minh, I should say, at the time, before they became North Vietnam, before they both split. Literally, both of them were that way. At the time, they were only known as Indochina. Before they became Viet Minh into Vietnam. I mean, it was a lot to think about here. I mean, that's literally what it all comes down to. I mean, a lot of things could have easily happened if Russia, if that happened. If Hitler was dead. Who knows who our enemy would have been. But our enemy was definitely would not have been Germany. Germany most likely would have been on our side, actually. We most likely actually would have been on the side of them. And then we would have ran right through Stalin, taken Stalin out of the picture, had the Tiger tanks on our side and had Stalin on our side, and Golly Nibs. The French and all of them pushed it all back to Russia. We would have kept right on going. And Patton was right. And I say in quotes, why are we pussyfooting with the goddamn Russians? I mean, he literally said that in quotes. And he's right about them today. If we would have kept right on going after we won World War II, hell, we wouldn't be in the mess we are in right now. He didn't even care for the Russians. He literally hated the Russians. But that's what happens when you don't kill that individual. But Henry Tandy said this, and I say in quotes, I will kill you. If only I knew he was gonna rule a world and try to rule the world, I would have shot him. And it almost worked out. He almost did it. Only difference is, we would have had a second. We still would have had World War II. Except this time, it would have been with that guy by the name of Tandy. Not Tandy, but Stalin. We would have had a war with Stalin. A war on communism. Had nothing to do with any of that. It would have been a war on communism. That's literally how it all wins. But I got things I gotta do. If you like this video, hit the like button. Hit the bell for notifications. Subscribe. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.